This is Twit.
The Super Bowl, at least in the U.S., is sort of the national let's all watch companies spend lots of monies on ads and see if we all buy their products. What's interesting about it is these are very specifically ads that are deemed as important. Companies make. They sort of experiment with new slogans. There's a whole lot of social networking that gets built in every year. Some of it is really lame. Some of it seems like it's a good idea. Danny Sullivan over at Marketing Land actually kept a running tally throughout the night. He said his daughter was helping him, kind of did it the old-fashioned way, and found hashtags were used in 57% of nationally run Super Bowl ads. That's up from 50% in 2013. Of course, 2013, the Super Bowl's a year ago. Facebook was the social network most mentioned, but it was only mentioned 5 times. Twitter had just 4 mentions. It's kind of interesting because you think, oh, hashtags, that's a Twitter thing. This time last year it was. But now hashtags are linkable on Facebook as well, on Google+, on Instagram. I mean, hashtags are not really synonymous with Twitter anymore.
It never would have occurred to me to sit there with one of my offspring and count hashtag and mentions, but
that's why we love Danny Sullivan.
That's right. That's what one of the many things that he's so thorough, even during the Super Bowl, while the rest of us are drinking beer. But it seems to me that Twitter used to be the primary social network for these kinds of mentions. Is that your sense as well?
I think that there's still the understanding that if you see a hashtag at the end of a commercial, and a lot of times it's like, what are we supposed to do with this information? And I liked a Budweiser ad. It was Best Buds, so I'm like, okay, I'll tweet that. It doesn't do anything for me. What's interesting is that when you are to click on a lot of these hashtags that brands put out, if the brands are smart, they've already bought their own promoted tweet, and that'll show up at the top of a search result, and you watch that commercial. So it's sort of this self-serving thing. What was also interesting, and some of you may have caught this if you were following along, is that JCPenney, the official account for JCPenney, had tweeted a couple times. It kind of came across as somebody who was drunk, who was maybe managing the account, got a lot of attention. Then JCPenney said, oh, no, in fact, it's ha-ha, it was supposed to be colder at the stadium today. We're tweeting with mittens. What was weird about that, and one of the weirdest things I found, is the other brands. For example, Coors Light responded, hey, tweet responsibly. Kia responded, hey, JCPenney, you need a ride home? Snickers responded, you need a Snickers because you're not acting like yourself. And it's like the brands are now talking to each other because everyone thinks, oh, JCPenney is like going to be the big breakout star of brands. Well, I want to get on that action too. It's weird.
That is weird.
Well, you definitely see that happening, especially when you talk about big events like the Super Bowl, where a brand does get a lot of recognition. Another brand that got some recognition was Coca-Cola, right? And kind of the controversial ad they had, and people were tweeting about that, but not necessarily in a positive way. Although, in a little bit of irony, I think they're probably going to get a lot more media attention because of the fact that it's a controversial topic and people love to talk about those things, right?
Yeah.
So,
it seems to me that every year there's a big conversation about who's doing what and who's flexible and who can get in there with the sort of on the spur of the moment kind of interaction. Who was it last year? It was Oreo or somebody or
because the lights had gone out in the stadium.
Right,
There's always
right.
something. You know, it's as much as you try to as a brand. We've got all these zingers lined up. You never really know. Sometimes what happens on social networks and what ends up getting a lot of attention. It's this organic thing, and yesterday was no exception. It never ceases to amaze me how much time and effort and money goes into some of these commercials where you just say, but now what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to talk about it on Facebook? No one's going to do that.
Nobody's going to do that. I'm not going to.
No.